He's one of the most troubling characters of modern times.
His daughters dialed 911 on him. His girlfriends dialed 911 on him. Road rage, you name it, he's done it.
He is both famous and infamous for being the best and the worst.
When he was acquitted, he and Cochran, they kind of looked over at me and did that little smirky, gotcha.
How did an American icon become an American tragedy?
We, the jury in the above entitled case, find the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, as follows. Count 1, conspiracy to commit a crime. Guilty. Count 2, conspiracy to commit kidnapping. Guilty. Count 3, conspiracy to commit robbery. Guilty.
The untold twisted tale of O.J. Simpson and a trail of rage.
Yeah, we were just robbed at gunpoint by O.J. Simpson. Can you send police here, please?
Where are you?
Palace Station Hotel in Las Vegas.
It's a story taken from the pages of a Shakespearean tragedy.
I'm Judge Jackie Glass, and I'm presiding over this matter. And this matter is the state of Nevada versus Simpson and Stewart.
A heroic personality destroyed by an inability to control his destructive actions.
Count 5 and count 6, first-degree kidnapping with use of a deadly weapon. Counts 7 and 8, robbery with use of a deadly weapon. Count 9 and 10, assault with a deadly weapon.
In O.J. Simpson's case, it's all caught on tape. This call to 911 is recorded on September 13th, 2007 in Las Vegas. Simpson and 4 other men have just held up a group of sports memorabilia dealers.
We just robbed by O.J. Simpson and 4 other black men at gunpoint. No, but we were pushed around and they stole one of our cell phones at gunpoint. Could you please send the police here immediately?
14 years earlier, in the Los Angeles suburb of Brentwood, Simpson's then estranged wife, Nicole Brown, also makes a call to 911. It was the kind of call police say she made before.
911 emergency.
Can you get someone over here now to Gretna Green? He's back. Please.
Well, okay, what does he look like?
He's O.J. Simpson. I think you know his record. Could you just send somebody over here?
2 pleas for help, a decade and a half apart, documenting the rageful behavior of a man who was once considered an American king. In both cases, the calls would change lives forever. Now, we will re-examine the evidence from these cases. We will travel to the crime scenes. We will talk with some of the people who loved O.J. the most.
I'll have to admit it, I like the guy.
And some who say they will hate him forever.
An eye for an eye.
I'll be and want to be the nail in his coffin.
Can Simpson's act in L.A. and Vegas be explained simply as rage, perpetrated by one of the most notoriously self-destructive characters in history? To unlock the secrets of the case of O.J. Simpson, we travel to the 100,000-seat Los Angeles Coliseum. This historic place is home to the USC football team. And it's here that Simpson ran for touchdowns and won the Heisman Trophy.
Trojan halfback O.J. Simpson gains a total of 188 yards during the game.
We'll do the coin toss. How are you?
So nice to meet you, Mike.
And it's here at midfield that someone who knows Simpson better than just about anyone else tells his tale. His name is Mike Gilbert, Simpson's agent and one of his closest confidants, until they had a bitter falling out.
He would walk into a stadium because I'd walk in with him and people would chant, you know, Jews, 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 and he was loved by everyone. Center of attention. And could you imagine if this stadium was filled now and he walked in? Probably not the same reaction.
O.J. lost every friend he ever had, everything he ever had, even his accomplishments here on the football field, the Heisman Trophy. He lost it all.
He became what all of the O.J. haters thought he was. He became a thug. His daughters dialed 911 on him. His girlfriends dialed 911 on him. Road rage, you name it, he's done it. How do you not just make the mistake once? How do you let your life get out of control and be found not guilty and not thank God and just change?
When I met Michael Gilbert, I really didn't know what to expect. I wasn't sure if he had helped O.J., not helped O.J. It turns out that this man was so filled with guilt, he truly couldn't face being alive anymore. He really wanted to throw in the towel.
To understand how far O.J. Simpson fell, we must understand the world from which he came. He rises to fame playing football, first as a Heisman Trophy winner at USC, and then in the NFL. Following a spectacular career as an athlete, Simpson strikes gold again, this time as a sports commentator and movie star. He was charismatic, handsome, and has the ability to charm just about anyone who crosses his path. A close personal friend and business associate of Simpson's knows firsthand about O.J.'s allure.
Now, when somebody told you don't fall under his spell, what, were they kidding?
I was told by one of his football friends here locally, when I was getting ready to go down for the trial, he said, don't fall under his spell. And truly, he has a spell. He throws a spell as if he were a sorcerer.
But beneath the surface, there is another O.J., one kept well hidden from the public.
When it comes to his image, it turns out O.J. was a control freak. He choreographed every moment of what the public saw.
So perception is everything when it comes to O.J. Simpson.
Oh, yeah.
And image is everything when it comes to O.J. Simpson.
That was the most important thing to him, was his image. He said, never do anything that will damage his image.
Behind the flashing smile is a darker side of Simpson, one that was evident in the months leading up to the death of his wife and Ron Goldman in June 1994. He and Nicole are divorced in 1992. In 1993, they decide to get back together for a year to see if they could work things out. The anniversary comes in the spring of 1994, and according to friends, it is Nicole who tells Simpson she wants to be single.
He meets Nicole at age 17. So in essence, he's able to mold and shape her exactly as he wants her to be.
As long as she needed him, he was fine. But the moment she turned that switch off and said, you know, you're right, we don't belong together, he changed. Literally, in the day, in the moment, he changed.
Gilbert says the news does not go over well with Simpson.
She was a waitress making minimum wage and tips, and I gave her this life, and she treats me like this. She's ungrateful after everything I've done. She drives a Ferrari, lives in a multi-million-dollar home because of me. If it weren't for me, she'd be a waitress. And he spun. Everything about him was different. I finally called our personal attorney, Skip Taft, and I said, Skip, what the hell is wrong with O.J.? And I'd never heard Skip cuss. He said, Nicole has O.J. so effed up, he doesn't know if he's coming or going. And that's why June 12th didn't surprise me.
Some of the facts from that night have never been in dispute. Nicole, her mother, her 2 children, and several friends eat dinner at Mezzaluna Restaurant in Brentwood, where Ron Goldman works as a waiter. Simpson is not invited. Nicole returns home and puts her children to bed. Ron Goldman leaves Mezzaluna around 10 p.m. and goes to Nicole's condo to return a pair of glasses her mother left at the restaurant.
I really appreciate you going through the pictures with me because I know that it's not easy to go through these pictures.
What I love about the pictures of my brother and I are that we're always arm in arm.
One person who has the events of that tragic evening seared into her memory is Kim Goldman, Ron's sister.
To move to a really difficult subject, and that is the reason Ron was killed. What do you think happened? Why did this happen?
My dad and I often talk about the fact that my brother was a selfless person and pretty much would do anything for anybody, and I wish of all nights that he would have exercised a little bit more selfishness, but that wouldn't have been him. And to just be walking along with a pair of glasses to lose his life over that is difficult to reconcile for me.
To this day, police are uncertain about the exact chain of events, whether Nicole is attacked first or Ron. But when it's over, Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman have been viciously stabbed multiple times. Nicole's throat is slashed so severely that she is nearly decapitated.
It's important for people to understand that, to know that Nicole was nearly decapitated, that my brother was stabbed 5 times fatally. You know, he had suffered numerous wounds all over his body, but in his jugular vein, his heart, his stomach, his thigh, like he laid there dying for a minute with his eyes open. He was found with his eyes open. He watched the killer walk away. I mean, I need people to understand the brutality in which they were killed to understand why we feel the way that we do.
We have a trail of blood that continues there and goes into the house, and nobody answers the door.
At the time, Mark Furman is a detective with the LAPD. He later plays a notorious key role in the case. Now he explains what police find.
And the door was open. Nicole's body was lying head north, feet south. Her hair is caked with blood. We're not even sure she's a blonde. Ron Goldman's body was in the shrubs. You could tell that there was a battle. You could just tell from the ground. It's obvious that she answered the door, but for whom?
When I think about my brother slumped over, bleeding out the way that he was, it's watching his killer walk away, I can't even imagine what he must have been thinking at that time.
Just to even look at the photos of the crime scene, I can't even face them. I don't know, what do you do with that? Because it's got to stay with you all your life. It's unfathomable, and I hate to even bring you there.
No, it's okay. It's important. That's what I'm saying. I mean, we watch the news every night, and we learn about people that are raped and abducted and killed, and we have put up such a shield to it. We're so desensitized to it that you don't even hear it anymore. I mean, that's when my dad said he was killed. It didn't even register, because you hear that so often that you often don't understand the brutality. You don't know what gets left behind, and this is what gets left behind. My 5-year-old wanting to know why he'll never meet his Uncle Ron.
Ron's father also faces the unthinkable.
Those first days after Ron was murdered, I mean, literally, his name was never mentioned. It was Nicole Brown, ex-wife of, and a friend were murdered. We were at home watching the news, and my wife, Patty, got crazy with hearing that again, as we all had been. She called one of the major networks and said, Ron has a name. Ron has a name. He's a real person. And it was literally right after that he started using his name.
What happens next ensures Ron's name will never be forgotten.
Today, my office filed murder charges against O.J. Simpson for the deaths of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Lyle Goldman.
So how did O.J. Simpson go from the heights of being an American hero to the depths of being the world's #1 fugitive? Two dead in Los Angeles in 1994. Armed robbery and kidnapping in Las Vegas in 2007. Is it rage that links these two events?
When I walked in OJ's footsteps in that Coliseum, I could see and feel those fans, the roar of the crowd that OJ fed off of. And it was those same fans that watched in absolute shocked amazement as OJ led in 1994 the most famous car chase in history.
Thousands of people line the Los Angeles freeways as a white Bronco driven by Simpson's friend Al Cowlings crawls at 25 miles an hour. Simpson cowers in the back seat of the car, laying down, a gun to his head, threatening to blow his brains out. It is as if Simpson's rage is now turned against himself. It seems by his own actions, Simpson has all but confessed to killing his estranged wife, Nicole Brown, and Ron Goldman. Simpson's agent at the time, Mike Gilbert, goes to see his friend 3 days later in jail.
What was going through your mind?
First words out of my mouth to my wife was, he finally did it. I can remember sitting in the lobby as the attorney was trying to get me through the doors to see OJ. And she said, OJ dictated a note. And he gave me this note, word for word. And I looked at it, and the note was, Mike, imagine OJ Simpson, Los Angeles County Jail. I need you now more than ever. My autograph is worth more than any man alive. Imagine what I thought. Here's Nicole, had been buried just a few days, and he's dictating a note, and I looked at her and I said, this is what he wanted you to give me. She said, word for word, this is what he wanted. I was at first shocked that it wouldn't be, Mike, stay by me, you know, I couldn't have done this, I love Nicole. It wasn't that at all. During the prelim, I remember him looking at me through the glass, and he said, Mike, I look at this blood evidence, their blood on the Bronco, my blood there, the cut on my knuckle, and I know I had to have done it. But if I did it, wouldn't I remember? Wouldn't I know I did it? And I remember just looking at him and saying, I don't know.
Please remember my admonition to you. Don't discuss the case amongst yourselves, form any opinions about the case, talk to anybody about the case, or allow anybody to talk to you about it.
What happens next becomes known as the trial of the century. Simpson assembles a legal dream team of lawyers led by LA law legend Johnny Cochran.
As he sits over there now, he's cloaked in a presumption of innocence. You will determine the facts of whether or not he's set free to walk out those doors, or whether he spends the rest of his life in prison.
The evidence will show that the answer to the question is yes. O.J. Simpson murdered Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman.
It was a live soap opera. It had everything. Money, drugs, interracial couple, beauty, Hollywood, fame. It had everything. It was the first reality show.
Los Angeles legal legend Tom Mesereau explains how Simpson's dream team comes to his defense. Mesereau is well versed in the inner workings of how the Simpson criminal trial unfolded.
This case fascinates me, fascinates you. Why does it fascinate you still to this day?
You know, the case was a landmark event in American history. It took over American society for over a year, and it exposed a lot of citizens to the inner workings of the justice system because people got addicted to this real-life soap opera.
It's no disguise. It's no disguise. It makes no sense. It doesn't fit. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit. Good time, Your Honor.
This house was pretty much exactly like it is now.
Racism becomes as much a part of the Simpson case as murder, and it centers around one man, Detective Mark Furman, who was caught in a lie about using a racial slur.
And you say on your oath that you have not addressed any black person as a or spoken about black people as in the past 10 years, Detective Furman.
That's what I'm saying, sir.
Exhibit 1368. One more time.
They don't do anything. They don't go out and initiate contact from
That's this man who's out there protecting and serving us. That's Mark Furman.
Maybe a dangerous place to go, but I feel I need to go there. As much for your sake as anybody watching this, what happened when the evidence came in and the N-word came out?
I cannot, to this day, go back as long as I can remember being an adult, being a child, to look a black person in the face and refer to him in that way, okay?
Furman maintains he was recorded using the term while he was collaborating with a writer on a screenplay detailing the life of a bad cop.
I used a lot of words, referred to a lot of people, thought I was being funny, I was saying all these things, and where do they come from? Okay, yeah, I agree. Some of them can come from me being other people, being characters in this book, from what I heard in the street, but it was a fictional screenplay. Anybody can call me a racist. If you just say, he's a racist, okay, now go back and say how this affected the murder of 2 people.
When I talked with Mark Fuhrman, he actually confirmed my premise that the rage that O.J. had built up in 1994 was still present decades later in 2007 in Las Vegas.
You know that to this day that Ron Goldman's family believes that they were just friends, Nicole and...
You can believe there's nothing wrong with him having a sexual relationship with a single woman. What's wrong with that? It doesn't complicate things. It actually gives a motive for rage.
Mr. Simpson, would you please stand and face the jury? Mrs. Robertson.
Superior Court of California, County of Los Angeles, in the matter of the people of the state of California versus Orenthal James Simpson, case number BA097211. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony upon Nicole Brown Simpson, a human being, as charged in count 1 of the information.
I sat there for 9 months watching those jurors' faces, and they checked out, absolutely checked out a couple months into it. And they told you when they were released that they stopped listening at some point and they were done. They had their bags packed.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony upon Ronald Lyle Goldman, a human being, as charged in count 2 of the information.
It was just an unbelievable farce and ultimately resulting in a guilty man walking out of a courtroom. Everyone who saw this trial, the vast majority of the world that saw this trial, knew that he was guilty. They could see the evidence clearly because there was more evidence in that trial by leaps and bounds than evidence in any other trial typically. Overwhelming evidence.
You're not going to convince anybody by this or anything else I say anything different than what they want to believe. That's why O.J. Simpson walked out of that courtroom.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is this your verdict? So say you one, so say you all.
I remember during the criminal case at the very end, when he was acquitted, he and Cochran, they kind of looked over at me and did that little smirky, gotcha.
Simpson has beaten the rap. But what he and the rest of the world do not know is that the Goldman family will never let him rest. O.J. Simpson is a free man, acquitted of the murder charges against him in a criminal trial. Simpson now goes back to his celebrity life. Mike Gilbert, Simpson's former agent and confidant, is there through it all. Gilbert has given few intimate interviews about his life with Simpson until now. Inside the massive USC football stadium where Simpson got his start, Gilbert talks about what it is like to live a life with O.J.
I had a reporter once say, God, you guys you're all loyal to each other, but none of you are loyal to your wives. And I thought, wow. And then I thought about it. And the reporter was right. The wives were almost like the enemy. And
what do you mean by that, the enemy?
I'd have athletes that would say, hey, Mike, I need you to call my house and leave a voicemail that you need me in Dallas for a golf tournament. I don't have a golf tournament in Dallas. No. I'm leaving. I've got a girlfriend in Dallas I want to go see. So I would leave the message. They would come home with their wife. The wife plays the machine. Hey, honey, Mike needs you to be in Dallas for a golf tournament. So I was always hiding their lives from their wives. And that's part of the job description. The guilt that I carry is that given opportunities, do the right thing, do the wrong thing, I did the wrong thing repeatedly. I've lost enough of my life because of my choices with OJ. I've lost 15 years, and I've lost my respect because I can't blame OJ like Mr. Goldman can. I blame me. My life is my life. I can't go back.
Opening statements are expected today in the O.J. Simpson wrongful death civil trial. Attorneys for the families of Ronald Goldman and Nicole Brown Simpson will spell out why they say the evidence will show that Simpson is the real killer. The trial is expected to last about 4 months.
The Goldmans win the case, a $33 million judgment against Simpson.
Have you received any of that money?
Not from him. He vowed, as did his attorneys vow, that we'd never get paid a dime. And he has never himself paid one single penny. Anything that we've accomplished by going after him and taking things from him.
The night before we were going in to seize items from his home for the civil judgment, that he went in the night before and removed, Tiffany lamps and, Oriental rugs and his Andy Warhol paintings, anything that had any kind of value, disappeared.
OJ's assistant has a list about what the Goldmans are coming after.
That's correct.
And they know.
And that list came from the sheriff's department, from the person that we knew at the sheriff's department at the jail. They had sent it over, and so we have to get everything out, everything. At that time, I didn't even think crime, not a crime, but it was, and it was unethical. Our loyalty was still to OJ, and the Goldmans were the enemy, and so on and so forth. So items went to storage, items went to people's homes. It was ridiculous how many items left. Everything was hidden. Everything was put away. We had various storage units in LA, San Francisco. Some of them still exist today.
This is a video of O.J. Simpson's flag being raised at Rockingham for the very last time.
7 months after giving up everything inside his house, Simpson is forced to give up the house itself.
Well, it's been a good 8 or 9 years. See, Rockingham is pretty much empty.
OJ's agent, Mike Gilbert, comes to the Simpson home on Rockingham to film the house one last time.
Come into the main living room, which during the good days we had a big screen TV. This area was where the table sat, where OJ would play dominoes with people like Ahmad Rashad, Rosie Greer, AC, Marcus Allen.
This footage has remained with Mike Gilbert since that time and has never been seen before.
I hope whoever lives here after OJ, I hope they can have as much fun as OJ and his family and all of his friends had. So, that is the end of the OJ story of Rockingham.
But even under the stress of losing his home, Simpson is still concerned about his image. In the footage, Simpson asks Gilbert to film him taking down his flag one last time. And then he tells him to film it again to get another angle. And then again.
Hey, Mike, I want you to go over there and shoot over the fence, walk through the gate, so I can give you the old
bird. Hey, maybe I can give you a golf club.
He then asks Gilbert to pretend he's a paparazzi filming the entire event from outside Simpson's property.
Hey, it's private property. Come on, man, look. Come on, man, give me a break. Come on, guy. Come on.
Everything about this moment is staged.
Oh, man, that's real classic, you know. Take care.
The act of rage that brought Simpson to be found liable of causing the deaths of Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown in a civil suit in 1997 is again evident in December 2000. In this case, it is road rage, and once again, Simpson winds up in court charged with misdemeanor battery and felony burglary inside an automobile.
I will ask you probably the silliest question of the trial. Please state your name for the record.
Orenthal James Simpson.
Okay. And how are you employed?
I have one job, raising my kids.
Okay. Do you do anything else to earn an income?
No.
Where do you live?
I live currently in South Miami.
Simpson is living the good life in Miami, a place he fled to after losing the civil judgment to the Goldmans. A neighbor of Simpson's is almost struck when Simpson runs a stop sign while driving with his 2 young children. When the neighbor confronts Simpson about almost causing an accident, Simpson's rage allegedly takes over again.
Well, I opened the door of the car, and I sort of leaned out of the car. I certainly wasn't going to go back to the car because I've had some things happen in my life in the last 6 years that I just couldn't do that.
Right.
I heard him say, O.J. Simpson.
Simpson faces 16 years in prison, but when the trial is over, there is not enough evidence for a conviction, and Simpson walks free. In 2004, Simpson makes headlines again, this time for writing a tell-all book he calls If I Did It.
He said it was a hypothetical. I don't think anybody that reads it walks away saying, oh, he's just pretending. I think they see him for who he is. I don't know how anybody could possibly read his words and walk away with any other belief other than, oh my God, of course he murdered Ron and Nicole. He convicts himself pretty well. We'd gone after the rights to the book in California court, and I think the killer and his attorneys thought that we might have a chance, though they decided to declare bankruptcy of this fraudulent company that they laundered the money through. And in the process of declaring bankruptcy, it ended up in bankruptcy court.
The Goldmans are given control of the book, but in order to give the book a value, the bankruptcy court requires the Goldmans to publish it.
I don't think it's entirely a coincidence that the day that our book made it to the bookshelves was the night that he broke into the hotel room in Las Vegas and tried to get all his stuff back.
It was the same day.
It was the same day.
The rage that finally brought O.J. Simpson down occurs on the exact same date that If I Did It is published. And his dealings with the Goldmans are far from over. The end for O.J. Simpson comes in a city he knows all too well.
Perhaps it's fitting that Simpson's demise happened in Las Vegas. What do they call it? Sin City? And he was there for a wedding.
While there, he learns that his former agent, Mike Gilbert, is in town. Through the grapevine, Simpson learns that Gilbert is selling some of Simpson's most prized sports memorabilia. He is told that Gilbert and the memorabilia are in a room at the Palace Station Hotel.
He was so enraged that you weren't there, that at that point, the only thing he could do was grasp at a straw.
Well, he was let on until he got to the hotel. He thought I was going to be there. And OJ knew that, you know, I had his stuff. So he found, I can get Mike finally.
What Simpson doesn't know is that one of the people in the hotel room, a man who knows that Simpson is coming, has a tape recorder running.
You can steal my and sell it. Don't let nobody out here. Look at this. Get over there. You walk over there. I just trying to get back along. Walk your Mike took it. Mike took it.
Fred Goldman believes the stuff in the hotel room belongs to the families of the 1994 murder victims.
People don't realize that the stuff that O.J. was going to get was actually technically
your stuff because you had been awarded whatever he had of value long ago.
He was asked if he had anything to do with this robbery, and he said, yeah, I was getting my stuff. He didn't deny it. He was proud of the fact that he did it. He thought he was above the law, as he has believed for most of his adult life.
The DA told myself and my attorney, said, if you would have been in that room, we doubt you'd be sitting here today. That came from the DA.
The DA thought that you would be killed, have been killed.
He said, I doubt you'd be sitting here today.
So that's why the guns were brought in.
You know, it's just that part of OJ. You don't walk away from him. You don't turn your back on him.
One of the men in the hotel room calls 911. Yet another 911 call connected to the former football great.
911 emergency. Yeah, we were just robbed at gunpoint by O.J. Simpson and 4 other black men, and they were armed. One was with a 9mm gun.
The one with the 9mm, was that O.J. or was that someone else?
It was one of his people, and I want him arrested.
At first, Simpson seems unfazed. He jokes with reporters and smiles for the television cameras. And he moves into the home of his friend, Jim Barnett, in a gated Las Vegas community for the trial.
Do you find in your life that people have questioned your friendship with O.J. Simpson?
I was absolutely attacked by people saying, how could you befriend this guy? How could you hang out with him? And I said, because he was found not guilty the first time. And everybody was thinking the first time, the California trial. Nobody was thinking the Las Vegas trial. In their minds, they were one and the same.
It's an inappropriate argument based on facts that are not in the record.
When the charges were filed against O.J. Simpson, oh, it's a nothing case. Had it been anyone else, it wouldn't have even come to the media, nor would it have gone to trial.
I thought it was a stupid case at the beginning of the case, and I still think it was a stupid case. But, you know, anytime a gun is involved, you know, it's a serious case. But fundamentally, it was a silly squabble among a bunch of, you know, idiots over, you know, who had whose memorabilia. And I think it was overplayed and over-dramatized because Mr. Simpson was in the case.
As the case unfolds in court, several things become apparent. Simpson's lawyers are having a tough time fighting the evidence, especially those audio tapes.
Oh, we the goon squad. OJ and his goon squad came in. I just wanted to look menacing. Hey, come on.
What happened in Las Vegas was very similar to what happened in Los Angeles with your brother and Nicole, in that O.J. Simpson was in a rage. He was angry. He wanted his stuff back. He had 13 years boiling up in him, which you helped brew.
Yeah, you know, when you listen to the tape and you could hear him, it was very reminiscent of the 911 call that Nicole had made, and you could hear him yelling in the background when he was banging on the door, screaming at her.
5 children. Just stay on the line, okay?
You could hear that in the tapes from Vegas, and you know, that every other word had to be bleeped.
How do I know that, you mother? You tried to take my shirt out.
I can only imagine what it must have felt like in that room and those closed quarters to be up against that. It brings chills even hearing. I can hear it in my head, you know, those tapes. So I can't even imagine what it'd be like to be faced with it.
Massive rage.
Yeah. Listening to the level of anger, I've heard that before.
Interesting, though, during the trial in Las Vegas, that he really had no sense that this was a serious charge and that it might stick.
Why should he? I mean, truly, why should he have thought that he wouldn't get away with it again? Look at all the things he got away with in his life. Most serious of all, murder.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, not guilty of the crime of murder.
He thought he was above the law. The world and the system has been telling this guy for years and years and years, you're special. You don't ever get held accountable for anything. You can do what you want and get away with it. For me, the connection between everything that's happened prior to this and the trial in Vegas is that he has spent his life being vicious, violent, and getting away with it. So by the time Vegas rolls around after all these years, for him, this was just another moment where he could do what he wanted, get away with it, and never figured he would ever be held accountable. Or certainly never thought that in a million years he would ever go to jail for it. His arrogance got the better of him. We made a promise to Ron, we made a promise to ourselves that we'd go after him, and we did.
We, the jury in the above-entitled case, find the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, as follows. Count 1, conspiracy to commit a crime. Guilty. Count 2, conspiracy to commit kidnapping. Guilty. Count 3, conspiracy to commit robbery. Guilty.
Looking back on it, do you see that, in fact, he did commit that crime and there were people with guns and that...
It was a stupid thing. I mean, it was a stupid thing they did, and had it been a white man in Las Vegas and somebody well-known, I would say they would have slapped his wrist and maybe given him 30 days in jail and sent him on his way. I think that he was destined to, once that happened, they threw the book at him.
Count 5, first-degree kidnapping with use of a deadly weapon. Bruce Frohman, guilty of first-degree kidnapping with use of a deadly weapon. Count 6, first-degree kidnapping with use of a deadly weapon. Alfred Beardsley, guilty of first-degree kidnapping with use of a deadly weapon.
He did go in there and take not only his stuff, but things that technically had been ruled by the courts to belong to the Goldman family now through the civil judgment against him.
To me, the irony of the whole situation is that Fred Goldman's tenacity and persistence in going after Mr. Simpson in the civil trial, in the bankruptcy courts, trying to enforce this judgment, trying to chase down his assets, ultimately put him behind bars. That, to me, is the most significant part of this whole story.
If I had to do it all over again, I never would answer the phone because I wasn't on call. My feelings when I'm out here is how incredibly stupid the suspect was, how much evidence he left, how easy it was, and then look what happened.
I don't have my best friend, and I don't have the one person that connects me to my youth. So all this other stuff is just a means to an end, and I look at my son, who absolutely is a reminder to me of my brother. He looks like him, you know, and that's my reality. And I've lived a majority of my life without my brother now, and that's really very hard.
When Ron was murdered, she not only lost a brother, but she lost her best friend. I lost my son. And a piece of my daughter.
People don't realize that the crimes that O.J. committed in Las Vegas and Los Angeles are connected in a very close way. That, in fact, the crime in Las Vegas was a direct result of the civil judgment against O.J. Simpson for committing and causing the deaths of Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown Simpson.
O.J. Simpson, I think you know his record.
Yeah, we were just robbed at gunpoint by O.J. Simpson.
It's hard to imagine that somebody who came from poverty and became a king among kings would throw away everything, his career, all he was worth, because of his uncontrollable rage.